We're here in the studio at Itron Utility Week, and I'm here with Matt Smith, who's the Senior Director of Product Management with Itron. Welcome.
Yep, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, good. So Itron released your Disaster Preparedness report this week. Talk to me a little bit about how utilities are preparing for disasters and recovery.
Yeah, I mean, we see this as an increasing need, in all of our market territories. I mean, the number of disasters are on the rise. They're predicted to get greater and greater. So we really see it as a key driver for utilities, and they're spending a lot of time and energy thinking about that. And from our perspective, we provide a lot of the communications networks that they utilize to manage the grid, a lot of the devices, such as smart meters, to instrument what's happening and understand the situations and recover from outages. So we see utilities making more and more use of their smart meter networks as sensors on what's happening on the grid to determine if there's an outage in a particular area, has power been restored, using that to pinpoint locations of outages and roll crews to areas of problems. On the distribution automation side, we see a lot of activity going on around implementing recloser schemes and switching things so that they can respond automatically when there is an outage, rerouting power to as many people as possible, and then where the pockets of damage exist, roll trucks to those specific areas. So, a huge amount of energy and effort going into that. Consumer expectations are on the rise, and in terms of what they expect from their utilities. So even while they're making a lot of efforts, consumer expectations change. The amount of storms is increasing, so they're kind of standing a little bit on shifting sands from that perspective, and it's not an easy challenge. It's a tough challenge for them, I think.
Indeed, and so here during Itron Utility Week, you guys showcase some really awesome technology. So let's talk about some of those technologies that utilities are using for this type of activity.
I'll talk a little bit about some of the new stuff that we've shown here at the show. One of the things that we call a harsh environment bridge, and it's a communication device for connecting grid devices, but it's submersible, and it's designed to be installed in vaults in cities. And with storms on the rise, amount of flooding increasing, especially in coastal areas, it's very common for these vaults to flood. And so this device actually will continue to communicate even though it's underwater.
Wow.
And so it's a way to keep the grid running even in times of tough trouble when floods and waters are rising and vaults are flooding. We go to still keep the lights on and keep the grid operating. So that's one of the devices. Another product that we're showing is a pole sensor.
Oh, yes.
Really, really simple product that hangs on a pole and has an accelerometer in it, much like is in your cellular phone, and it can detect whether the pole is leaning or tilting or has fallen over or has taken a big shock. And this is interesting for utilities who are trying to recover from storms, is because one of the big problems they have after a storm blows through, and we've seen this here in Florida with the hurricanes coming through, is that it's not always clear where to send the crews to repair. And so oftentimes people have to just get in a truck and drive the lines to find where the problems are. They wait for customers to call and say, hey, the pole's down in my neighborhood, but that doesn't always happen, especially if people left the area. And so this sensor actually will tell the utility immediately after the storm blow through where those pockets of damage are, so they can actually roll the trucks to the areas that have the most damage. But also if they know what poles are down and they have an inventory of the equipment that's mounted on the poles, they can send the truck with the exact right equipment that they need to repair that pole, get it back up and running, and not have to make multiple trips to that location.
Makes a lot of sense. I can see a lot of implications with something like that for even just preparing. You know the poles that maybe have a little bit more play, or you can gather the data on what types of wind will knock things over.
Yeah, it can actually also act as a preemptive sensor, because we can monitor within a degree how the pole is moving. If you see the actual pole is moving day to day through the daily updates, you can actually find areas that may need attention before there's actually a problem, which is even better.
Yeah. It seems like the more data we acquire with sensors like that, the better prepared utilities will be. Yeah, very cool. All right, so last question: what's on the horizon? What's this emerging technology, or what are you seeing as even more exciting that's coming along?
Yeah, I think the thing that most excites me is the ability for the grid to become active, to sense what its condition is and respond automatically to trouble.
Yeah.
And we see this today with some schemes, recloser schemes, where you actually have reclosers being able to communicate across our network peer-to-peer. So when there's an outage, they talk with each other to say, did you see the outage on your side? No, and the other, and they figure out where that outage was and they automatically reroute power.
Wow.
And so that's something that many utilities are deploying today. But we really want to take that up to the next level. And by putting embedded compute capability in many of Itron's products, our meters or our DA communication devices, we can add a layer of intelligence to existing devices so that we can monitor what's happening on the grid and then take actions automatically to address problems, either proactively or reactively, depending on the situation, without having to have an operator involved. The grid can manage itself locally, and then obviously it lets the operators know, and the policies on how it will respond are all defined by the utility and done in a secure way. But it's really exciting if the grid can start to self-heal and really make itself more autonomous. And so I think that looking forward, that's something that we're really, really excited about, and we're trying to build the platform capability to enable that functionality within the utility industry.
Super cool. Well, Matt, thanks so much for coming out to talk to us.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks so much.
Yeah, great. And please subscribe to our channel to stay up to date on all our utility news.